Call to order the regular meeting of the East Point Community Schools Board of Education, December 9th, 2024 at 6:30. Please call the roll.
Mr. Grunberg,
Here.
Dr. Early,
Here.
Mr. Williams here, Mr. Roscoe,
Here.
Mrs. Rayford,
Here.
Mrs. Richardson,
Present.
and Mrs. Grunberg.
Here.
Could all please stand? Dan will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, is there a motion for approval of the agenda?
Place forth the motion to approve the agenda in its written form.
I'll second that.
Please call the vote.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Rayford
No.
and Mrs. Richardson,
Yes.
and
Next, we have consent agenda. Is there a motion for consent agenda?
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
As presented, it is not presented. It's not presented, it's just,
As written.
Please call the vote.
call the vote.
Mr. Williams, yes.
Roscoe.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayford,
No.
Mrs. Richardson,
No,
and Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, we have superintendent's report. Superintendent Gibson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, joining us live here, and also for those of you joining us at home. This is your superintendent's report for December 9th. So we continue on the journey for a campaign for excellence for East Point Community Schools, as well as for the community that we serve. And I'd like to celebrate this Board of Education this evening. This is a slide that was provided to us from MASB, which is the Michigan Association of School Boards. And I'd like to celebrate this fine board because you have before you an honor board. An honor board is given to boards when all board members achieve level 1 certified board member award. So a huge thank you to East Point Community Schools Board of Education for their dedication to learning as school board members. There is a lot to know about being a publicly elected official. And there is a lot of effort that goes into preparing for board meetings, as well as learning the role of a board. And the members that you see before you this evening have put in that work, and we are proud to acknowledge them. And it is officially an honor board. I'd also like to thank our outgoing board members for their dedication and years of service to East Point Community Schools. Our current president, John Gruenberg, has been a board member for 20 years of service, beginning in 2004. John has stuck by the district in good times and in bad, and ran uncontested for a number of years when other citizens in the community were not willing to stand up for their public education institution. Wow, I'm having a hard time tonight. John Gruenberg was there. So thank you, John, for your years of service. And we have a small token of our appreciation for you here this evening. Next, I'd like to recognize Board Trustee Mary Hall Rayford, who has completed her 4 years of service here to East Point Community Schools. So Mary, we have a small appreciation for you as well this evening. So thank you so much for your service to your community. So if you would, please join me in a round of applause, acknowledging our two board members. So thank you, John. Thank you, Mary. Last Wednesday, November 27th, we had a 612 visioning meeting conducted by Wolpert and David Sturts. Over 30 members of our secondary community, community members, board members, staff, Boys and Girls Club partners, representation from the city of East Point, came together to talk about the program that we are trying to build for East Point High School. We had a facilitated conversation and began to start to unpack and consider what we will shift about our secondary program. In June of 2024, this board took action to have a unified 6 through 12 campus to better improve our ability to offer all of the things that we want to give to children here as students of East Point Community Schools. Before we start that work on the physical campus of the high school, we wanted to really dig in and start to look at the portrait of a graduate and how we will live into that serving East Point. That's a great picture. The 612 visioning meeting, the common themes that continued to come up are continuing to grow our CTE and our community partnerships for our students. We started to examine some things that we could let go of that are no longer serving our current students and community well. We also began talking about how we will continue to respect students as valuable members of our community and how we will lift student voice as we craft a secondary experience for them. We also reconsidered the norms of time, place, and space, and started to grapple with ways to be innovative and to transform our secondary campus. Thank you to the 612 visioning meeting folks who contributed, and you can see a very large list of individuals who took their time to come and share their thinking as well as be in community together. So a huge thank you to all of the members who took that Wednesday before Thanksgiving to come together and talk about our vision for 612. The strategic plan talks about what we will do. That visioning team began to talk about how we will start to do it. Thank you to the NHS students. Only a few weeks ago, this very room was transformed into a Santa's workshop. And our East Point High School NHS students came to volunteer at the tree lighting last week. They welcomed guests, passed out programs, helped to take pictures. And we're so proud of them and their leader, Meredith Barden Rodriguez from East Point High School. And we are grateful that Meredith has really taken on the spirit of community and is actively communicating and working with city officials. East Point High School art class, they've taken some field trips. Busy past few weeks, Ms. Jovanowski's digital photography students visited the Detroit Zoo to test their skills. The AP art class toured the Flint Institute of Arts, and Mrs. Thrift's students went to the DIA. A gym class at Forest Park. Here you have Marvin Henderson. Marvin is a coach and a physical education teacher with us. And these pictures are just too cute, showing beginning soccer skills being fostered in our physical education classes at Forest Park. Our third grade readers at Pleasant View were learning more about creatures who live deep in the ocean as they work to respond to nonfiction passages during reading last week. Crescentwood just hosted a Title I Parent Night, a literacy night with bingo for books, featuring two special guests, Birdie's Bookmobile and Santa Claus. A huge thank you to Birdie's Bookmobile, who came and graciously donated a number of books to our children. MEMS for recognition. East Point Community Schools works hard at our public relations and our communication, both on a number of platforms, and congratulations, a huge accomplishment for Caitlin Keenitz, our communications and marketing East Point was recognized in special purpose projects for the work in our strategic plan portraits. Our social media was given a merit award, our newsletter merit award, marketing materials merit award. Congratulations, Caitlin, and thank you for all the hard work that you put into helping tell our story of good here in East Point Community Schools. A big thank you to Principal Felicia Trice and Pleasant View Elementary School, as well as Board Trustee Secretary Williams. Was instrumental in helping to bring forward a program that we are piloting this year called Dads of Great Students, the Watchdog Program. It's a nationwide program that helps bring fathers, grandfathers, stepfathers, uncles, and other father figures on campus to serve for one day or as many days as they can throughout the school year. And it helps to bring men into the schools as well as bring parents into the schools. So we're looking forward to that pilot launching here, and I believe Donuts with Dads or Dogs get started here this month, and we'll see how many of our parents are interested in stepping up and volunteering for spending a day at Pleasant View Elementary School. K-5 transition. Again, this board in June of 2024 took action to create 4 elementary schools that will be K-5 buildings. Currently, we have 2 K-2 buildings and 2 3-5 buildings, which if you are a parent with young children, that could mean that you are spread between 3 or possibly 4 schools working to get your kids off and out in the morning. So all of these considerations were made when the board took its direction to create 4 K-5 schools. So we'd like to keep our families informed of what can be expected from the district as we work to build trust through this transitional period. Currently, the district team has again plotted out a calendar for the transition timeline as well for communications. Right now, we are in the throes of working to establish new attendance zones. We plan to have the attendance zone map finalized and communicated out to families on February 1st, 2025. In those communications that will go out to families, they'll get information about their assigned school, the transportation, and upcoming events that would be coming, such as open houses to get to know those schools. On March 17th, we will have a deadline for any in-district transfers, as well as our current schools of choice families. And we will be getting some targeted communication out to those families about their requests for their 2025-2026 building preferences. We are also working to plan a kindergarten roundup for families of current ELC preschoolers and other children who turn 5 on or before September 1st, 2025. We anticipate getting more information out about kindergarten roundup and communication to families with young children about which elementary school their kindergartner would attend. Shamrock basketball, our boys basketball team is 3-0 so far, just recently celebrating a win over Detroit Western, 81-52. Congratulations to sophomore Sean Askew, senior Aaron Perry, both of whom contributed to 14 points in the non-conference victory. This week in athletics, I don't know if you've noticed, but our new athletic and activities director is up and at it and is providing weekly communications to everybody in the district. She is also posting on our community page as well as East Point's page. So there is no reason that I should not see folks attending our home basketball games this week. Will be JV and varsity will be versus Clintondale at home on Tuesday. Wednesday, girls basketball launches with a game against Marine City. And then the boys team will be away. But I'd really like to shout out Paris McCarthy for this improved communications so that we can get more people coming out to support their Shamrocks. She also launched a new tag at Shamrock Country. So please check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and our Twitter accounts for more information about the athletics and activities program. Upcoming events, East Point Middle School and East Point High School Band and Choir Concert will be December 17th at 7 p.m. The Pleasant View School Elementary will present Frozen at East Point High School's auditorium, 5:30 p.m. on December 19th. December 23rd through the 3rd will be the holiday break for the school district. A central office will be open on Monday and Friday, both of those weeks. All of our school buildings will be closed during holiday break. Our next Gleaners food distribution will be January 9th, 9 a.m. at East Point Middle School. And then it is a half day for students on January 9th, and that marks the end of semester 1. So students, it's a quick turnaround after that break. Please make sure that you get any missing assignments before you head off to the holiday break. And lastly, just January 10th will be staff professional learning, and there will be no school. Before concluding the report, I'd like to invite Principal Valerie Jens up to the podium. This evening's presentation about a school will be from Valerie, and she's going to give us an update on our Early Learning Center and what we have going on there. Valerie Jens.
All right, good evening. Can you hear me? Is this on? Okay. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So I just wanted to talk about, what's happening over at the ELC with our littles. I'm going to put these on. I wasn't sure if I was going to need them. Can't see that far. I just want to show some pictures of students doing some work in the classroom. Right here we have some students working on measurement in the classroom. As young as 4, they're working on already measurement. On the next slide, we have them practicing writing names. The middle one is practicing writing their names. The one on the left is they made apple pies, so they had to put all the ingredients in, working on math, all that kind of stuff. And then they got to taste their pies that they made. And then on the far right, they're identifying the letters that they have to use straight lines or curved lines or both. So that's, working on this step in the process of getting to writing those letters. On the next slide, we have this or that, and what you don't see in that picture is what happens is the students will poll the class and, take inventory or tally marks of what the class likes. Do you like, I think that's frogs or lions? Okay, so they're polling the kids, do you like frogs or lions better? And then when they're done with it, they make a graph. And they talk about, how many more people like lions versus graphs. Jesus. Let me go take a nap, versus the frogs. So that's fun. So when they're done doing that, they make a graph and do some math. On the next slide, you see some science experiments that they're doing. The one on the left was a volcano pumpkin, and they learned about how, mixing different ingredients, chemicals make it explode, if you will. And then on the right, they were mixing some other things as well, kind of similar, just those were in cauldrons, like a witch's cauldron. On the next slide, we have, so this classroom went around the building on a shape scavenger hunt to work on identifying their shapes, so they had to find the different shapes around the building. And then on the next slide, we have the classrooms dissecting pumpkins in the middle. So what they do is they dissect the pumpkins, they, talk about the different parts of the pumpkin, how they grow, all that kind of stuff. So lots of science experiments. On the right, there is, that was sink or float. So the kids got to go around the classroom, grab some objects, and then they had to predict whether or not their item was going to sink or float in the water. And then on the left-hand side, that classroom was making a fruit salad. So a lot of science experiments there in our building. On the next slide, we have our ECSE Thanksgiving feast. Every year, our ECSE classroom does a feast where the kids actually help prepare the food for the Thanksgiving feast. So not all of it, but some of the things like they make the mashed potatoes, and they didn't make the turkey, what else? They made the cranberry relish, that kind of stuff. And then all the kids learn to try these different things that maybe they may or may not have ever had before. The next slide, we have the kids are making some snow in the classroom. The middle one, we have some sensory play that's going on with the water and some items in the water. And then on the right side, we have the kids are working on their fine motor skills and hand-eye coordination by tapping those golf tees into the pumpkins, and it works on strengthening their muscles in their hands, excuse me. So on the next slide, I just listed a few of our family engagement things that we've had this year so far. Home visits, every year we do those with our GSRP, our open house. We had a Westview Orchards field trip that our families went on, a Halloween event, which was a huge success. Our families had a great time at that. The parents even came dressed in costumes, so that was fun to see. And they had themes, so that was really cute. We had a family of like the Incredibles that came. It was really cute, and they brought the baby in the stroller. It was adorable. Our community-based field trip that our ECSC team went on, they took them throughout the community. So they went to the fire station, East Point, oh my gosh, the bakery, the post office, and they mailed a letter. So they got to mail a letter, and then the library, where they went, and the parents went with them. We had a fine motor parent engagement, where parents come in, learn different fine motor activities that the students can do at home with their parents to help with them strengthening their muscles in their hands. Parent-teacher conferences, and upcoming in a week and 10 days, we have our winter holiday activity where our parents are coming into the classroom. So on the next slide, I have some pictures. This is the staff for our Halloween event. We had a lot of fun dressing up and enjoying the fun and games with our families. And then the next slide, we have some cute kids. I thought that the middle picture, that pilot outfit, was just amazing because he brought his suitcase with him like he was a pilot, you know, really, really adorable. Next page is the community field trip that I was just talking about. For the East Detroit Bakery on the top. I think I said East Point Bakery earlier. The library on the bottom, and then the fire truck at the fire station. One of the kids even stuck his hand like in the exhaust of the pipe of the fire truck. It was adorable. The firefighters got a kick out of it. Next page, we have our Westview family trip. So those are some of our families that came on the field trip with us. They got to pick a pumpkin. I think they picked apples as well. I can't remember. I did not go. I stayed back and heard all about it. Pumpkins, and then they got cider and donuts, and they just had a really good time, you know, building those relationships with our teaching teams in the building. The next slide here, I just wanted to give some data update. Our parent-teacher conferences, that's what was attended. For our GSRP, we had 80% of our families attend, and for our ECSC, we had 63% of our families attend our parent-teacher conferences. For our literacy for GSRP, I do want to point out that our 2 times for collecting the data is beginning of October and mid-November. So in about a 6-week period of time, our students have grown in this area specifically of letter ID from, 42% that were below expectation to 20%. So that's a huge growth in such a short period of time. And then our letter sounds, those typically take a little bit of time for the kids to get. That they usually don't get that until the end of the year, but they are making some growth there as well. You should see the graph on the left slowly declining and the other one's going up is what you should see. Next slide, we have our counting, which is our math. And you can see the progress there as well. So we have currently 70% of our kids meeting or exceeding the expectation for the end of the school year. And then our social emotional, so there's a lot of social emotional goals, just like there's a lot of math, a lot of literacy goals. We just select specific ones to touch on. So we pick solving social problems because that's basically fights, arguments in the classroom, which we get a lot of. When you're 4, you know, you argue about a lot of stuff because you got things that are important, right? So we pick social problems because that's just something that you got to be able to, you know how to do that throughout your life. So we're working on that. It's slowly climbing, but we're getting there. It takes some time. Some kids just aren't there yet, you know, maturity-wise, age-wise, they're just not ready for, you know, being able to handle those types of situations. The next slide, I just wanted to read our purpose statement for our building to you guys. We came together as a team and decided that this is what we wanted to make sure that everybody understood what drove what we're doing for our kids. So the East Point Early Learning Center cultivates a nurturing environment that fosters a sense of belonging for students and their families. Our community deserves a school they can trust and believe in for their youngest learners, ensuring that every child receives the best possible start in their educational and personal development. We will equip students with the essential knowledge and skills necessary to achieve success throughout their educational journey and beyond. So we came together, put all this together. We feel as a collective unit that this hits everything that we really want to provide to our students and our families in our community. On the next slide, our arenas for action, we would really, our community engagement and family engagement is pretty good. I can't complain there, but we would like to increase it even more and get more people, involved and coming in. Obviously, we understand people work and you can't make, to every event, but we would like to increase that. And then we would also like to obviously increase the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations in their literacy, math, and social emotional development. And then I believe this is our last slide, which is our upcoming events. So we have monthly parent engagement activities that we do on select Fridays throughout the year. We have our parent-teacher conferences coming up in March, our family flower planting day, which is in May, and our end year celebration, which is the beginning of June, right before we leave for the summer. So those are the things that we have planned for our year. Does anyone have any questions?
I was looking at the numbers, and I hope I was looking at them correctly. You said they're coming in with the social emotional development, 91% of them coming in?
Can you go back to that slide, please?
Yeah.
So,
Is that 91?
so 91% of our students in October were below the standard that they need to meet.
Right.
Yeah, so now we're at, what is that, 9, 5? 9, 5, 9, sorry, looking at the wrong one.
79? Okay. But that's great coming in.
Right, so, yeah, so they're below at 91, and we're slowly climbing, going from 9% in October meeting, and now we're at 21% in November meeting. So, I mean, we're getting there. It takes time, but we are getting there.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I was just gonna say that, this picture is a fantastic picture, because, not because of the uniforms, because you have it should be a costume, not a uniform, but you have an amazing staff at the ELC.
I do.
We have been fortunate to get a group of human beings who care deeply for the children in this community. Every time I get a chance to visit your building, you can feel how much the staff love the students at the ELC. And you've really done an exceptional job of cultivating and bringing in talent that serves our children and our families very, very well.
Thank you.
So I return back to this slide because, sometimes as a Board of Education, we don't get to meet all of the people who make a difference in the lives of our children and our community. When I look at this picture, it reminds me how much you have a dedicated, caring staff who plans and goes above and beyond, and I think we can all see that in all of the intentional, you don't have to do all this parent engagement. You don't have to plan all these trips, yet your staff continues to choose to do it because they know it makes a difference in the lives of kids, and that needs to be celebrated and commended. And you have an exceptional front of the house that welcomes families and makes them feel cared for the second they walk in the door. I have sat in that school over and over again, and parents might have frantic mornings coming in, but the way your staff treats families, it matters, and it matters in a big way. And so thank you to you and to all your staff at the East Point Learning Center for all of the work that you put in every day.
Thank you.
And that concludes the superintendent's report for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is hearing of the public. We'll open that up at 6:59. Does anyone wish to be heard? Step up to the podium. Yep. Need to state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
How you doing? My name Michael Phillips.
And Kayla LaFleur.
Can you hear me now? Okay, my name Michael Phillips.
And Kayla LaFleur.
Okay, my first question here is, my daughter go to Forest Park Elementary. What are the steps are they taking to getting kids protected from other kids? Like our daughter is getting attacked from other kids. I did speak with the police department as well. They said that there's really nothing they could do as far as being other kids, but they did say that with other kids being dangerous to other kids, it's making other kids liable in the classroom. So I'm just trying to see what are the steps of disciplinary or stop. I don't know if the kids have, special need classes or anything like that. So we, as parents, we're just trying to see what are the steps that's being in place for that.
Okay, I don't want to, but this is a hearing, so we can listen to what you have to say, but we don't necessarily respond to it, right? But what I can say is, I looked over here to make sure that they were writing down all your information,
All right.
to make sure that they have your name and everything like that, and I'm quite sure they'll get back to you in some way, shape, or form, okay?
All right.
Because you've talked to the principal, and you may have talked to somebody else, maybe a board member or something like that, but this is central administration, so they're going ahead and they're taking down the information, and they'll look into it, and they'll get back to you,
All right.
okay? Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Good evening, Lincoln Stocks, the president of EFE. Well, I'm starting with, I wanted to tell you what a wonderful place ELC is to go. I'd like to go there and visit. It's sort of a happy place. I've been there with the Halloween parade and stuff, but being a grandpa, those little ones are there. I do not know how the staff does it. I am done with kids after about 3 hours of babysitting with two. I don't know how they do with all that, the kids that are there, but it's an enjoyable place and they do a great job. I wanted to congratulate and welcome the people that you're going to welcome in as new hires. We look forward to working with all you folks, and want you to consider the EFE your first friend and best friend in employment here. If you need anything, please make sure you contact your building reps and get any of the help that you need. We have many changes coming along, and we look forward to working with you folks and getting your help to complete those objectives. I want to take a second to congratulate the new and returning members of the Board of Education for your victory in the election. We look forward to working with you as well in the future. This is a good board. You guys have worked together very well for the last several years, and we continue to look forward to that smooth operation. I also wanted to take some opportunity here to thank Ms. Rayford and Mr. Gruenberg for your service to the community and to the school district. I'm sure you'll continue to be actively involved in the community and even here in the school district. It's a very thankless job, I know, to be here. You usually get the worst end of everybody complaining to you. I know I usually do some of the complaining, but I look forward to continuing that communication with all y'all here. And again, you don't know how much we appreciate your willingness to hear what we have to say and be out front and lead the district. John and I have been button heads for better part of 25 years, I guess it's been, and we don't always see eye to eye, but we've always been able to find one thing in common, and I know that you share that as well, and that is a real genuine love for this district, this community, and this school district, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dan Zander. I'm the ambassador for East Point High School. I just wanted to say congratulations to you and Ms. Rayford. You did an excellent job, and you, Ms. Gibson, excellent job to be our superintendent for the schools. I just went to the November 26th for both games at Hazel Park. JV lost 41-51, and East Point against Hazel Park 68-55. And then Wednesday, December 4th, 2024, East Point has 47 and CE 49, and East Point has one again, 67, and C8 25, and then like you said, Ms. Gibson, I appreciate you helping me out with this. So for myself, I'm enjoying myself being your school crossing guard. I love it very much, and things are going really good. Pretty soon, next year in 2025 will be a good one. It will be my 33rd anniversary next year in 2025. And I'm not going to retire. I'm just going to keep on going. And the school is very important for me to go to all the sports and things like that, and I like doing that. And the last one, not least, I want to wish everybody a happy and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year of 2025, and God bless you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else wish to be heard? I don't think anybody can top that. Okay, the hearing of the public closed at 7:06. Next, we have Human Resources, Instructional New Hires. Is there a motion to support the hiring of instructional new hires?
I make a motion to accept the hiring of the instructional new hires.
Support. I know, it was like stereo, one voice. Well, he's got to pick, you and him said support.
You can have it. Did you give it to me? Okay.
And what? Yes. No. Wake up down there.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Rayford,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Okay, do we have a motion for support of the non-instructional new hires?
I make a motion that we support the non-instructional new hires.
Support. Second. Okay,
Please
Dr.
call the vote.
Williams?
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayford,
No, due to insufficient information.
Mrs. Richardson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
I'd like to take a moment and flip the microphone over to Dr. Alspa. I believe that some of the new hires are present with us here this evening.
Thank you so much. I just want to take a moment to congratulate Megan Durham on the board approving her appointment. Megan has been the first friendly face that our students see and our families see at the schools, and she has been helping out in the central office. One of the things that really stood out in the interview process was about Megan was just she's very kind and very professional, and she's showing that she could definitely learn a lot quickly because we're on a learning curve here, and we are very excited to have her be part of the Human Resources team. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay, next we have revision of Board of Education policies, Title IX.
Yep, we've informed the board in August 2024, the Title IX new regulations took effect. Our central office team has worked with Clark Hill to revise some of the Board of Education policies to be compliant with the new Title IX regulations. We have just completed training all of our administrators in the district, central office administrators, counselors, and some select school social workers were also trained in Title IX so that we can all be compliant with the new regulations. We do anticipate those regulations under there will be more changes to Title IX, but for now, we will be in compliance. The board has been provided the 2 suggested policy updates, and then our team is revising the internal processes for handling Title IX investigations.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the revision to the Board of Education policy regarding Title IX?
I have a question. As reading the Title IX report that came, I had a lot of questions. And I need to have them answered because I don't see, what I see is like things that have occurred. So I don't know if we are trying to cover what the things that happen or what. So I'm sort of confused about the whole bit, and that's why I needed to have more information. And let's talk about it because I don't hear the talk. I don't hear. I just see the paper, and then it's time to vote. So could it be possibly put off until the next meeting so that we have time to discuss some of the changes that I saw in the paper?
That's actually the board's pleasure as to whether or not somebody wants to make a motion to move forward with the changes. But I don't know, I think you would be willing to answer some questions, right? I mean, anything that we can answer at the table. But I can say that the Title IX changes that are being made to the policy are changes that legally have to be made. We cannot, as a district, it's not to just say that something has been occurring, so we're changing policies to correct these things from occurring. What has happened is the state has come down and says to all school districts, it's the federal government, right? In this particular case, the federal government comes on down and says that in Title IX, that everybody has to change their policies to comply with what the new standards are. So that's what's happening here, is they have developed policies, changes to policies, revisions of policies based upon the new standards that the federal government is putting in place. So that's why this is occurring. It isn't because of something that's been happening in our individual district or anything. This is rolling down from the federal government. And the sad part of it is you do bring up a point, is there's not a whole lot of input on things like this from us as to what we can and can't do. Sometimes the federal government and the state tells us what we have to do. So we have to make changes to our policy to meet their standards. We don't have a whole lot of choice on that. The only choice we have is on the wording itself. We might be able to tweak the wording slightly, but the wording still has to meet their standards.
So in the new regulations, some language was added that it says includes sexual orientation and sexual or gender identity. That language.
Decisions, there's always usually a third or an odd number.
Well, there's a number of steps involved in a Title IX investigation. Investigators have to be assigned, and so there's all of these roles that need to get assigned. The federal government describes and prescribes in law how the district is expected to comply with Title IX. And so what we're doing is only revising our board policies to be compliant with the federal regulations.
Okay, so on the compliance of 2, are you being the third to make it an odd number?
No, we're only required by law to have 2 compliance officers.
Can I ask a question, even though there's a motion on the floor?
There isn't a motion yet.
Oh, they didn't make the motion.
No one has made a motion yet.
Okay. Okay, so my question is, when is it required? What is our deadline?
The deadline for the policies to take effect was August 2024.
24, that's right.
That's when the federal regs were required by the district. And so we went through this odd period of time where if we had any Title IX investigations before, part of them would be investigated and you would use the 2020 regulations for Title IX, and then anything occurring after August 2024, we had to apply the new federal regulation.
But that's not what I was asking about. I mean, what is our deadline to do this? Or are we past it? Because it was August 24th of 24 when it took effect.
Because the federal regulations have taken effect, it
Oh,
is
we need to
important
put it.
that
okay.
we revise
Revise
our
it,
board
yeah.
policies. I would recommend, since we've brought them forward to you now, that we move forward with approving the policy changes as presented. I think it would be due diligence by the board to approve those in the year that the federal regulations took place.
Okay, and then this will be my second thing. Is there a possibility that we have some Title IX discussions? Or a
If you would like
workshop
to
or
have-
Something.
Absolutely.
to
If
make
you
sure
would
that
like to
we-
have some training,
Yeah.
we can absolutely bring in, I know we can partner with legal counsel. All of our team has been trained. We just brought in legal counsel and did, multiple sessions to ensure that everybody in our organization knows the new regs. Our team, Dr. Alspa, myself, we would be happy to do a mini session and teach the board. Or if the board desires it so, we can do it at a public meeting and update our community on what changed about it.
That would be good. I think that would be good.
I can also
Thank you, Mr.
share
Gilbert.
the presentation packet that was given to us by Clark Hill, the district's attorney, because it goes through and helps to break down some of those changes that have occurred.
Because, I mean, it did have the 4 and the 5 in our board packet on board book, but it kind of didn't have, like, how it fits with the rest. You know what I'm saying? Like, how it fits with the rest of the Title IX stuff.
And I think some of the language is something to critique or something. It's,
Let me interject a thought here. I think I get what everyone is saying, because it's real difficult to see if this is a revision, what was the original saying?
That's what I'm saying.
That's-
What is, I
Right.
don't know what they're revising, and so that's why I was asking how long did we have, but if it's required, we have to do it. It's not that we can be like, no, we'll wait till next year. So we have to do it, but I think we need to have some
Understanding of
of what's, yeah,
what was being revised.
yeah.
Yeah, and again, I just point out that there's not very many changes. If you look at our current policy and what the revised policy is, you will see that most of the languages, including sexual orientation and gender identity, those were the big changes. The 2 compliance officers was another change, as well as some language that enhanced the Title IX education amendments of 1972, that language was added.
so if we let this go through, would that be stamped in cement, or would it be a chance that we can understand and make further changes, or the language or everything later?
You can always revise policy at any point, okay? And that'll bring up another thing that I was gonna bring up once the motion was made. But like, for instance, on here, this will just require a motion, and then if it passes by a majority vote, then the revision takes place. Now, if this was a new policy, we would have to have a hearing on that policy first, okay? So that becomes completely a different story. This here, we already have a policy in place, so this is a revision, so we don't have to have a hearing on this particular one. We just need to say that, make a motion that we accept a revision to the policy, and the revision will be made to the policy. You understand what I'm saying? If it was a brand-new policy, we would have to have a public hearing regarding that policy, and we would have to read the whole policy into the public record, and we would have to field questions from the public on that prior to even being able to take a vote as to whether or not to accept the policy. In this particular case, since it's just a revision, we don't have to have the hearing because we already did a hearing on the Title IX policy originally.
In August?
No, back when Title IX was first put into place.
Okay, so back then.
Way back when, right. And so now, we're just saying, we're doing a revision to it, so that's done just by motion of the board without a public hearing.
It's just keeping us in compliance
This
with
is
the federal
just,
government.
this is just like maintenance,
This happens,
right?
yeah,
Like
this
you bought the
happens on a lot of
car,
policies.
and you have to revise it. What I can also do is ensure that the next time we have a policy revision and legal counsel is recommending some changes, I'll make sure that we highlight the new language and that we strike through the old language.
Yeah,
So that
so
you
that-
can see
yes.
that better.
Yes.
The way our legal counsel provided it to us was just the full revision. And I can see that it would be more helpful to ensure that the strike-throughs are there and that it's highlighted so that you can see exactly what the change is.
Yeah, I can appreciate that because,
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, I can understand it, and it, again, this is not something we have a lot of control over, but I appreciate very much that the board wants to know what it was before and what the changes are. I would recommend that we go ahead and adopt these policies, and it would be my team's honor to offer some Title IX training to the board if you'd like to continue to learn more and sharpen that saw.
Okay, I move that we adopt a revision to the Board of Education policies regarding Title IX as presented.
With the year 2024 added, or is it necessary?
No, it's not necessary.
Support.
Any other questions or comments? Please call the vote.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayford,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson.
No.
And Mrs. Grunberg.
Motion carries. Okay, meeting adjourned, 7:23.